Edgar, I think I have you 7th. Or am I crazy? Okay. Olivia, I'll post in the chat right here. This is the link for you guys. I'm teaching 8CE and 8BE this period, so I will not have time to be with you guys, but if you just watch that video, you'll be all good to go. All right, so watch that, you take notes, and then that's it, you're done. It's a very easy lesson. Now, let me just make sure it's the right video. All right, so the focus question for 8CE is, okay. How do America and the Allied powers close out and finally win World War II? Now we're looking at the second, basically World War II for the United States is from 1941 to 1945. Now we're going to look at more towards the end of the war. After we get D-Day and after we get the Battle of Normandy won and we get control of Europe, we essentially are going to, we essentially are going to win. It's going to take a year or two. There's going to be some crazy things that still happen, but it's all but over once we can land all of our troops and supplies there, because we have so many troops and so many supplies that the Germans now have to fight against, and it is going to be very tough for them to stand up to, especially after years of fighting already. So after the success of the D-Day invasion, the Allied troops had an area in Normandy, France, where they can land all of their soldiers and supplies to help fight against Nazi Germany. Now, you can see what that kind of looks like here. Okay, if you see in this photo right here, you have a lot of tanks, you have a lot of vehicles, you have a lot of destroyer boats, you have a lot of planes in the air, zeppelins in the air, you have a lot of supplies. And this is an area that was cleared out so America can have a home base and a landing base where everyone from the United States can come into Europe and fight. This puts tremendous pressure on Germany as they have to fight a war in Europe on multiple fronts versus a very fresh American group. And I'll show you kind of what that means soon, and so will the oversimplified video a little bit later on this week. But ultimately, you will see that America is going to have a much easier time to fight against Germany than other countries did, because Germany has to fight so many different areas. Basically, Germany and Hitler have made way too many enemies. And now they have to fight those enemies all over the world, and it's very tough for them to divide and conquer. Okay? Let's go on to the next slide. Please copy this down as well. I'll give you a minute to do so.
Will we copy the yellow too?
Yes, that's the most important part, actually. So definitely copy that.
Okay.
Okay. So again, the Battle of Berlin is something you should have done in lesson 10 already. You should have already completed this. This is one of the final battles of World War II, and we're going to see how we basically beat Germany. We meaning the Allied powers, not we meaning the United States. It was a group effort, as you're about to see. So essentially, the Battle of Berlin is really between the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union all fighting against Germany in their major part of the country. Berlin is the capital of Germany, so we're enclosing on their capital. And I want to start with the map. If you notice here, okay, America and Britain, we are coming in from the west, okay, where Belgium is, where Switzerland is, and we're coming in from the north, where Italy is, okay? The Soviet Union is coming from their country on the east. So basically, Germany is fighting like a war all around them. Okay, they got people coming from every which direction. They've made way too many enemies. Hitler is not able to stand up to all these powerful countries now, and they're pretty much trapped inside their capital. Okay, now here's one of the unfortunate things, I guess you could say. Adolf Hitler realizes that it's all but over. Okay, and he decides to commit suicide along with his wife. Basically, the Soviet Union was, maybe hours away from taking over Berlin, taking over Germany. And if you know anything about a war strategy, if you take over a place's capital, it's very easy. It's very hard to win. It's very easy for the other side to beat you. So Hitler does commit suicide. Now, why I say it's a little bit unfortunate is this is the guy that was responsible pretty much in a big way for starting World War II. He did tremendous, horrible things to a lot of different people, specifically the Jewish people in the Holocaust. And it's almost like he just took the easy way out. He killed himself. The wife killed herself as well, and I think the dog. I don't know why I always mention that, but the dog was killed as well. And essentially, he was down hiding in his bunker, and he killed himself. When Hitler kills himself, Germany basically doesn't have a leader anymore. They don't have their dictator. They don't have their fascist leader. So this forces their generals to surrender, which means Germany is out. Okay? Germany surrenders, which means war was over in Europe. But this does not mean World War II is over by any means, because we still have to beat Japan. Okay? And that is fought in a completely different area of the world. So when Hitler kills himself and Germany surrenders, that doesn't mean World War II is over, because Japan is continuing to fight. We'll focus more on Japan tomorrow. Today is looking at how we were able to outlast Hitler, outlast Germany, and a big reason for that was us taking over D-Day, the Normandy, and winning that battle, giving us an opportunity here to win. Okay? That should be enough time to copy. I believe we have one more slide we need to copy down. It's not the whole thing, but this is going to lead to our assignment a little bit. It's one of those things where I don't know how to incorporate these four particular things, but I need to just mention them in some way because they're so important to winning World War II. So the only one you have to copy down is the Tuskegee Airmen, but we want to definitely write down all of it. Sorry, we definitely want to listen to all of it, though we're only writing down one of them. So you're going to do your assignment on the Tuskegee Airmen and something with the atomic bomb, which is going to lead into tomorrow. But the Tuskegee Airmen are a very famous group of African-American pilots who came out of the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. And they were extremely brave pilots who were part of a segregated military, okay? Remember, our military is segregated, so is the rest of our country at this point. So whites didn't go with blacks, and blacks didn't go with whites. And this particular group, the Tuskegee Airmen, were a group of African-American soldiers who fought very bravely in World War II. Sometimes they were known as Red Tails. That was their nickname. But ultimately, they were responsible for carrying out a lot of bombing raids and fighter pilot raids out in World War II. They were known to be brave black soldiers. And later on, they would help convince a lot of Americans to desegregate the military, meaning get segregation out of the military after World War II. Okay? You'll see more on them when you get to the assignment, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Okay? I want you guys to do some of the work with them. Okay? The next group is called Doolittle's Raid. It's more of an occurrence than a group, but there were these known as the Doolittle Raiders. This is kind of close to after Pearl Harbor, so this is like 3-4 months after. We end up bombing the capital of Japan. It was a very risky attempt, but basically America wanted to get back at Japan a little bit. And though we only killed 50 Japanese people while only losing 7 American pilots, this was a huge boost to American morale after Pearl Harbor because we felt so upset after we were attacked. And this was a huge help to that. Okay, so essentially this is a huge boost to American morale. Oh, Edgar, I just learned, are you coming to class 8BE next week? I just saw this.
Wait, what?
Are you coming to in person next week?
Yeah, I'm coming on 26.
Okay, cool. All right. That's why you're here. I got you. All right. So though America only killed 50 Japanese people, it wasn't a big attack. It wasn't a big fight, but it was just something that gave America a little inspiration and morale after Pearl Harbor because we kind of got back at Japan a little bit. Okay. There's also a very famous group called the Navajo Code Talkers. These were Native Americans, only like 20 of them, 25 of them maybe, that were hired by the Marines, but they were like geniuses. They came up with a system where we could communicate secretly between American soldiers out in the Pacific Coast where we're fighting against the Japanese. So we knew the Japanese had the capability to intercept some of our messages, and they gave a code to the American soldiers that they spoke in code, and Japanese never broke the code. All right, so this was huge. This is a great group to kind of look at as well. And one of the other big groups are known as the Easy Company, or what's known as the paratroopers. During D-Day, these were the people that flew in behind enemy lines a few days before. So raise your hand if you ever played like Fortnite or PUBG. I'm just curious, or just right there. Oh my God, a lot of hand raises. Okay. So if you've ever played that game, you would understand what a paratrooper is if you've ever played the game. That is someone who kind of parachutes down and then goes to fight. Okay, so these particular paratroopers went in before D-Day. They went behind enemy lines, meaning they went to where the enemy was, okay, and had to hide out. And they were used to stop Germany from basically bringing in a counterattack after the Normandy invasion. So they were meant to protect us. There's only about a few hundred of them. These guys were very famous people, okay? The last thing I'm going to leave you with before you guys get to the assignment is there's 4 movies based on these 4 groups, so I just want to mention them. A very famous movie that came out of maybe like 6-7 years ago was a movie called Red Tails. This is about the Tuskegee Airmen, has Cuba Gooding Jr. and Terrence Howard, goes into this African-American group that was very, very strong. One of the best movies I've seen on Doolittle's Raid is something called In Harm's Way, okay, which goes into that attack pretty well. The Navajo Code Talkers is a movie about them called Wind Talkers. Again, if this is just something you want to see. And there was a very famous miniseries that came out in 2000s that I'm a big fan of called Band of Brothers. And that goes into the Easy Company paratroopers that basically risked just did one of the craziest things, flying in behind enemy lines and fighting the enemy in their own territory, which is a very, very tough thing to do. So those are just some things there you can take a look at. If you're bored and want a good movie to watch, I would recommend all of these. I haven't seen Wind Talkers, but I've heard it's very good. Okay. So here's what you're doing for today's assignment. Okay, let's go to your guys' class. Okay, you have 2 readings. One of them is on the Tuskegee Airmen. Okay, so you're going to do that one first. Okay, you should do this one first and then stop and go back and answer the questions. The questions are going to be located, okay, right here. Okay, so you're going to do the 4 questions on the Tuskegee Airmen based on the reading. Then tomorrow, okay, we're going to focus on a very controversial topic in World War II, which is based on the atomic bomb. I want you to do the next reading on the atomic bomb and figure out why Harry Truman, who becomes the new president after FDR passes, why he decides to use the atomic bomb. Okay, so you're going to read this. This is something you're going to learn about tomorrow, so you're now just going to front load the information for this today so you have a good sense of what tomorrow's about, so I don't have to explain it as much. Okay, and again, you're going to answer the questions that go along with it. Okay, so that is what you're doing for the period. Please give me an okay in the chat or a thumbs up or something to please let me know if you guys understand and are good with everything.